Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for April 29th through May 5th. And this week is about relational resources becoming available. We have Venus moving into the sign of Taurus, and we have Mars moving into the sign of Aries, plus some other astrological happenings. My name is Shawna McGrath. I am a psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I'm really excited to share the astrology of this week with you from a psychological perspective. So let's talk about what's happening. I want to also put in the context like the broader strokes, the broader volume of the book that we're in astrologically at this point is that we are coming off of a high peak intense sort of experience. There has been over the last month or so a lot of emphasis around the Aries Libra axis. There's been a lot of emphasis around the Taurus, the sign of Taurus as well. And so we've been experiencing an eclipse in Aries, an eclipse in Libra, Mercury retrograde in Aries, the nodes still, the North Node and South Node still moving through Aries and Libra, and Mercury's retrograde overlapping with the eclipse period, and then sort of continuing to put little exclamation points on the eclipse period and the eclipse experiences. And so lots of changes, eclipses being changes, lots of endings, beginnings, transition, things coming in and things falling away very quickly, and also kind of something feeling like there's like a pause or an abruptness, or where something sort of goes offline and then comes back online. This is the eclipse energy, is that like when you're, I don't know about you, but oftentimes if an electronic does not work for me, I will unplug it, plug it back in, or turn it off, turn it back on, sort of like that reset. That is the energy of the eclipse. So we all have collectively experienced in different ways at different intensity levels this sort of resetting or even obscuring, especially related to themes of the self, the individuality, Aries, and the other relationships, Libra. Also, we're also coming off of and sort of downshifting from Jupiter Uranus conjunct in the sign of Taurus. And this is getting some attention this week as well, because Venus is moving into the sign where these two are, Jupiter and Uranus. And so Jupiter and Uranus is also a very dynamic, change-making type of energy. And we've been experiencing this over the last couple of months. And then also there was this exactness of the conjunction. So over the past few months, there have been themes around expanding change, around looking at the way that we do life, and the ways in which maybe you have followed the status quo or followed the social norm, and deciding if that is you, or if that has been sort of something that you've fallen into and it's worked for a certain period of time and now it's time for a change. Jupiter, Uranus, and Uranus especially really encourages us to question the norm, to question, it might not even be the social norm or the status quo. It might be simply questioning your norm, what you do and the way that your life is structured. Is it because you choose it, or is it because what you have always done? So these are things that we're still kind of like digesting, chewing on. We're still decompressing from all of this energy that has been frankly, a bit kind of wild. There's this wildness to these transits that we've been having over the last month and the last couple of months. So I just kind of want to put that in context that we're still like downshifting, we're still decompressing, um, we're still kind of like wrangling ourselves, so to speak. Um, And so this week, I really like what's happening, knowing all of that. And I'm saying that because two planets are moving from a sign that tends to be more challenging for them, or maybe a bit counterintuitive for them, to the sign of their rulership where they have more resources and there's more ease around things. And this typically means that there is more of a sense of ease for us around the issues that the planets symbolize. So, uh, to break that down a bit, number one, firstly, we're talking about this week Venus moving from Aries into Taurus. And Venus is the planet that is a symbol of relationships, relational dynamics, what we value, what we are attracted to, what we are repulsed by, the things that invoke a sense of like feelings of goodness, feelings of wholeness, feelings of um, reciprocity, things coming together. And then also the inverse of that, where things when we feel uh, disconnected or we feel like there's a bit of a relational challenge. Venus also speaks to that, speaks to what we're craving when we don't have it. And so Venus is in the sign, each sign about a month at a time or so, like outside of retrogrades. That's kind of a different story. For the most part, we're talking about Venus in Taurus for about a month. Venus will be in Taurus from April 29th through May 24th. And we always want to keep in mind too that Venus is never more than about 2 signs away from the sun. So Venus is kind of like following the sun before or ahead of it, etc. And so like the sun is like this cosmic spotlight where the sun is our conscious focus, what we're aware of, what we are seeing. And so the sun is in Taurus at this time, right? And so Venus is hopping into Taurus to join the sun. Venus is a symbol of our relational focus from time to time, from month to month. And so we've had Venus in Aries. So Venus has been also in the equation of all of this this change making kind of energy that we've been experiencing. And Venus in Aries is a symbol of relational dynamics where we're especially trying to navigate how we can maintain our individuality, our autonomy, our independence, how we can feel vibrant and vital in relationships, what sparks things, and how we can feel. I think with Aries, there's even like an element of playfulness and intuitiveness and passion. There's kind of like with Aries, there is it's very like instinctual. There is a feeling, a movement, and then there is action immediately. There is not there's sort of like a removal of the thinking through kind of piece where and there can be, of course, benefits to that and challenges to that. So we're moving from this emphasis around figuring out who you are in relationship and how to be who you are and what that even means for you at this point in time. And we're moving into the sensory experience of relationships, which is Taurus, and then also the value system of relationships. Taurus is a fixed earth sign, and so it's really about developing into something and looking at the ways in which we grow, develop, mature, how we further what we have started and how this relates to our value system or not. Um, the other piece of Venus being here is that at this point in time, we also have Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. And so the way that I'm seeing this, the way that I'm feeling this is, and Venus is also going to square Pluto this week, but we're going to talk about that in a second. So I'm talking about this more broadly with Venus's journey through Taurus over the next month or so, from this week until late May, is that I see Venus kind of coming in to like smooth out and bring a sense of healing, renewal, repair, cohesion to this area of the chart, this area of life where things have been reinvented. Jupiter Uranus, where things have been maybe felt like there's been like a lot of unexpected change, where there has been some excitement, some renewal, some novelty. And I also want to say too, this side note, I've noticed this coming up where I've heard some folks say, oh, you know, Jupiter Uranus, it was like this big transit and it was exact, it happened, and like it was kind of, you know, underwhelming, or not a lot happened, or maybe it like, you know, I've heard a variety of different things. Some people have said like, wow, like I'm really going through it, there's a lot happening. And some folks have said that it wasn't, sort of like, this is the vibe I've got, that it's not as exciting as they thought it would be. And um, I want us to keep in mind that, especially with a conjunction, we don't always know what the new seedling is that has been planted, like what that is going to grow into. And sometimes that can be very dramatic. And sometimes it can be more subtle in the moment. And we don't really um, know until we've had some time to see that little seedling grow. And then when we look back, we're like, oh my gosh, that was the time, that was the beginning. But we often don't know that it's a beginning until we get some space from it. Um, and yeah, do I want to say more about that? So I guess my point in bringing that up is that I think Jupiter Uranus is sometimes about something dramatic or something external, and sometimes our awakenings are soft. Um, I have a very dear friend who has Uranus really dialed into their chart very strongly. It is aspecting personal planets, and this person um, has the energy, they embody the energy of Uranus, in that um, they have like really rapid insights, and something will come to them and then they will speak it. And when they have a change throughout the course of their life, when they have had changes or awakenings, especially something that is of uh, a spiritual or personal development kind of nature, it's usually this very rapid and sort of like dramatic inner experience. Um, I see this sometimes in folks with psychotherapy as well. Sometimes there is like this like rapid change that happens very quickly. I notice this because my experience is very different. Uh, I have, among other things, Saturn very dialed into my chart. And I've made, this has helped me make sense of when I have uh, inner experiences of transformation. It usually is not a like rapid lightning bolt kind of thing. It's usually something that happens bit by bit, very slowly over a very long period of time. And it's only when I look back later that I'm like, oh, wow, like I have changed. And sometimes it takes me a while even to to like let that realization sink in. A really good example is some of you know, if you've been following me for a while, that I went back to school later in life, and that meant that I had to start at the very beginning to get my associate's, bachelor's, and then master's. And so I spent about 6-ish years in school in the academic world, I suppose. And once I graduated, once I got my master's degree, it sort of was like a very weird change. Like you know, I had accomplished this big thing and it had taken a long time, and it was kind of like weird for me to be like, oh, okay, I guess now I am no longer this person that is going to school and working and building my astrology practice. Now I'm moving into this role of psychotherapist. So anyways, I feel like I'm getting, I hope you're still following me on this tangent. My point is, in saying this, is I think that it's so important when we're following transits like Jupiter, Uranus. It is important to look at what is happening in your life, what your temperament is. That can be what your chart is, but also just like what your nature is as a person. You don't even have to know your chart. If you know that your life maybe is more of like a slow and steady sort of transition, um, which is, you know, neither one is good or bad or better than the other. They're just different flavors of ice cream, so to speak. That Jupiter and Uranus together is going to be different for you. And I think that also Jupiter and Uranus is going to be experienced very differently based on how you feel about your life, and if there are things that are not I think saying in alignment feels sort of cliche, but like if you have been sacrificing parts of yourself in honor of what you should do, then I think that sometimes this transit maybe is more dramatic because that there's more that can change to bring more parts of the self online. So anyways, I digress. Regardless of what your experience has been over the last month, over the last couple of months, I think that Venus in Taurus comes in to kind of like smooth out maybe some of the rough edges that have been happening here, because this is a major part of Venus's function, is bringing healing, bringing smoothness, repair after a rupture. And this is the beauty of Venus. And Venus does this. Venus has a lot of resources to be able to do this when Venus is in the sign of Taurus, because Venus is in its rulership in the sign of Taurus. So that's happening. You know, that's the beginning of this process this week. And I said that I would say more about Venus squaring Pluto. So Venus square Pluto is in effect this week. Let's see, how long are we going to be feeling that? So yeah, I would say like this week, maybe into next week, but it's really most vibrant this week. And Venus square Pluto is about going into the relational themes or the relational dynamics that maybe have been unrealized, unseen, or denied or rejected or even projected in some kind of way. So I think also like really really lovely potential for deep relational healing here, whether that is working with something inside of yourself or working, you know, more external, working with another person or people. I think this is a beautiful week to contemplate how you feel about your relationships and what you value, what you enjoy, what you love, and then what you find challenging. And even like to really bring it into Pluto territory, what you like and don't like about the way that you relate to other people. and that this is an exploratory process. It's not like it's not like a measuring kind of how good or bad you are in relationship, but that it's exploring what relationship is like for you, and letting that kind of sit and simmer. Okay, so that's what I have to say about Venus moving into the sign of Taurus. We also have a third quarter moon in Aquarius this week. So this is happening on Wednesday, the 1st of May. Happy May to everyone. Let's see. So the third quarter moon is the point in the lunar cycle between the full moon and the new moon. So we had a full moon in Scorpio last week, and then we will have our new moon in Taurus next week. So this phase within the lunar cycle is about kind of like wrapping up loose ends, making peace with things, figuring out how you want to prioritize. It's kind of a theme also of like discernment. So it's more about kind of like letting things wind down, delegating. And I think also too, like if you want to, you can do this. You can look at your next 2 weeks and be like, okay, what do I really need to or want to get done over the next 2 weeks? Like, what are the priorities for me? Like things that, especially that you've been sort of working on that will feel good for you to get complete and like off your plate. That's kind of the energy as we're winding down and moving toward the new moon, because the new moon, of course, is about moving forward, initiating new. It's more about beginning new things. And then, again, like you got to do what you got to do. But if we're following like the subtle energy of the lunar cycle, which really connects to our emotional energy and our physical energy, that mind body, like the enthusiasm that we have for being in the world. This is kind of like the winding down sort of vibe. Okay. Also, last thing I want to talk about today is Mars moving into the sign of Aries. And so I feel like so Venus moving from Aries into Taurus, for me, that's kind of like more Venus energy coming online, coming more resources in the relational realm and the value system realm coming available, because Venus is more able to do the Venus-y kind of things in a more stereotypical Venus kind of way. And same thing with Mars here. So Mars is moving from Pisces into Aries. Mars changes signs about every 2 months-ish. Now, of course, that's totally different when it's a Mars retrograde and, like looking way ahead into the future, we will have a Mars retrograde from December of 2024 into spring of 2025. So then, so we're kind of like, we're not freaking out about that, but we're like mentally preparing for Mars to spend a lot of time, many months, in the sign of Cancer and the sign of Leo during its retrograde. But right now, we're just like Mars is kind of doing its normal thing in a sign for about 2 months or so. So Mars moves into Aries this week, and Mars has been in the sign of Pisces, which is, okay, so back it up here for a second. So Mars is about our initiative to act, our initiative in general, but our ability to be direct, to fight for something, to cut things out, to have like a sharp and that sort of like no nonsense, or like this is Mars is really about boundaries, but in a different kind of way than Saturn. Saturn is also about boundaries. Saturn is about boundaries in that Saturn is about the limitations. And Saturn has this sort of like containment sort of effect to it. So Saturn is about, at least this is the way that I experience Saturn, is it's more about like, okay, yeah, like this is your max, this is your limit, this is your mortality, and then also containing and holding space. Whereas Mars is more about the defense system and what we allow in, what we do not allow in, when we need to defend ourselves in some way in order to like I'm also thinking about Mars being connected to the immune system and how the immune system, well, the way I understand it at least, is it will like reject something from the body if it feels like a foreign, if it's like not a part of the body and the body is like afraid. So Mars is also sort of like connected to fear and the fear response as well. Um, and then also Mars is really connected to that part of us that wants to advocate for ourselves or for someone else, that part of us that wants to stand up for something and say, hey, like this is not okay, and I want to do something about it. That like that fire, that passion. So Mars and Pisces, when Mars is in Pisces, it sort of has like a more roundabout way of being within all of those themes. Mars has also been in Pisces with Saturn and with Neptune, and we're like just coming off of the Mars-Neptune conjunction because Neptune is at the later degrees of Pisces. And so our ability to act, to be direct, to like physically engage with things. Also, Mars is really connected to our muscular physical vitality. This has been kind of like toned down a lot the last couple of months. And actions maybe have been more intuitively focused or more about being versus doing, which is really Pisces territory and really Neptune territory. And so this week, I don't know, you let me know how this goes for you. Uh, Mars in Aries is very different because Mars is in the sign that it rules, which is interesting, right? So Venus is going into its rulership, Mars is going into its rulership. So Mars has more resources to be more Mars-like in the more stereotypical Mars way of being direct and acting and taking action, fighting for things, saying like, hey, you know what, actually, I have thought about it and I am not okay with this. Like, I don't know what I was thinking before, but like now I know what is happening, and, or maybe I knew it was happening and I just couldn't, I don't know if this happens to you, but I think that um, sometimes we, I'm thinking of a family member that says, well, I know what I need to do, but I just can't do it. And that for me is like the Mars and Pisces kind of vibe, like knowing what you need to do, but you just kind of can't like bring yourself to do it. And there's often a variety of different reasons that this may be. Sometimes that's rooted in a like a psychological dynamic that involves like fear or hesitation or even intuition. It's like a protective function. And I think when Mars moves into Aries, if any of that was sort of like a sense of like confusion or fog or like not being clear, there is this clarity that sort of arises and like feeds out through our muscular system and like through our hands. And so um so more initiative, more stamina, more vitality may come online this week and really be with us over the next couple of months. Um, Now, of course, Mars is going through this area of the sky, Aries, where we've had our solar eclipse, where Mercury has been retrograde. Um, And so there's also this like re-highlighting of the themes that have come up, especially around Aries issues of the self and personal autonomy, how we feel independent, how we feel like ourselves, how we feel like we have the freedom to say, hey, this is me, this is who I am, this is what is important to me, and this is how I can advocate for that. That this is also kind of maybe subtly coming up, and that there is more cohesion around the insights of things, the understandings of things, Mercury retrograde being done. And then now Mars can come in and symbolize a more physical, tangible integration process. Okay, so I feel like I said a lot of things. I'm going to pull some cards. I wonder how all of that lands with you and how you're doing, how you're feeling. As I pull these, feel free to get into a comfortable, connected place within yourself, finding a physical sense to focus on, whether that is focusing your vision on something or focusing on the sensation of your breath or your clothes, the temperature in the room, or maybe the sounds around you. And you can just be in this space and let these cards be, let these cards, that's one that popped out here. Let these cards be guidance. Or maybe there's a particular question that arises or contemplation. And if you like, you can pick a number between 1 and 3 to be like a special emphasis for you. Okay. So card number 1 is the 3 of Swords. You can see this. This is the tarot deck is the tarot of spells and potions. So the 3 of Swords, there's often a sense of fear that comes up with this card, like several, right? The 3 of Swords comes up for me when there is sorrow, grief, sadness, and kind of like the sort of sadness where we like wish that it didn't have to be this way. Where it's like maybe there is a loss, but it's kind of like the sadness is not always even about the loss. It's more just like that the situation feels the situation is sad and that it didn't work out the way that you wanted it to. And this card usually comes up when possibly there was maybe a little part of you that sort of knew that like this wasn't going to go the way that you wanted it to go down, and you pursued it anyways, and now it has not worked out. Now that, is not always the case, but there's kind of this theme with this card around um having pursued a path that maybe um was like there was something about it that wasn't right for you, and that there's grief and sadness in that. um I think that I'm thinking about how the human experience, there is grief and sadness to be had. um doesn't mean that anything bad has to happen, but we have these feelings from time to time. And even we can have these feelings if everything is going right in our lives, but we see the suffering in the world. And so maybe there is an experience of that that is being had now. Maybe that's something that you are processing. Um, so we're gonna look at the other cards, but I would just sort of like, we're gonna like create some compassionate space for grief and sadness. We're not going to try to like push it away. Um we're going to like let it do its thing and know that it is okay. That's what this card is really about for me right now. Okay. Uh the next card, card number 2, is the King of Pentacles. And the King cards in tarot are about mastery, leadership, authority, autonomy, but also influence and having an impact on others. And we all have impact, on at varying different degrees and varying different, degrees based on the role that we're in at any one point in our life and in our day. The King of Pentacles is about having impact over your material world. Pentacles being about the material world, sometimes can be about finances. I'm thinking about uh with this card, I'm actually really thinking about Venus moving into Taurus and Venus having more of an influence or an impact now that it is in the sign where it has more resources. King of Pentacles is about having the resources that you need for your physical material existence. Um, and in this card, in this deck, this figure, they have this really beautiful, um, like full head of hair. Um, that's like very curly and wavy, and it sort of has this green tone. And then they have a couple things going on here. They have like what looks like a star flower, what do you call that, tiara or crown? And then on top of that is a witch, like the stereotypical witch hat. And I'm really drawn to that part in particular. So this is like, there's something here around the crown chakra, which is about connecting to the divine, connecting to your intuition, connecting to wisdom from something that is outside of your logical knowing. Um, and this figure also has, in one hand, they have a little pentacle disc, and then in the other hand, they have what looks like is could be a couple different things. I don't know. If you're watching the video, you tell me what you think it is. It could be like a rattle, um like a shamanic rattle. It could be some kind of weird wand. It could be like, I'm also wondering if it's like a wand with a crystal ball on top. Um, it kind of gives me this whole figure here kind of gives me the vibe of the magician card. So all of this I'm taking is there's like something very magical and uh, yeah. And when I say magical, I'm talking about magic as an art of using supernatural or extraordinary means to affect change in the material world. So there is something here about connecting with something that is unseen and using that to impact or influence in your daily life. So what is that? You're like, Shawna, what the fuck does that even mean? I I'm feeling into how sometimes when we do, for lack of a better term, spiritual practices or magical practices, that sometimes has a change or an impact, or we feel a correlation to our physical world. So I'm taking this card as to process our grief, our sorrow, our sense of like even like feeling the weight of the existential matters that we are seeing in the world, in our lives, etc., from the more personal to the more collective, in order to compost, transmute, process those things. That there is something here around uh, noticing where you do have influence, where you do have an impact, even if that is just a very small, seemingly small way for you. And then also there's something here around maybe tapping into the unseen or magical or spiritual practices. This can be, of course, mindfulness, meditation, uh, getting yourself into an altered state of consciousness in some way. It can even be, like journaling, spending time dancing, doing ritual, etc. There's something here that also like emphasizes the impact that you have. Okay, I don't know what's going on, but I'm like really on a roll today. I feel like this video is becoming very long. I hope that I appreciate you for being here with me and listening. Okay, third card is also a king. Very interesting here. Third card is the King of Wands. And so we know the king, and there's 4 kings in the entire deck. So I think that's very intriguing that we got 2 here. So king, we talked about, is a symbol of authority, autonomy, impact, influence. I think the king also is a symbol of emotional security, like confidence, but it doesn't have to be confidence in like a showy way. It's more like security in the self, that there is a stability in yourself. Oh my gosh, yeah, and this is really funny. So I'm thinking, King of Pentacles, Pentacles is the physical, which I'm connecting to Venus and Taurus, Taurus being an earth sign, very stable, right? And then this third card is the King of Wands. Wands is about passion, desire, creativity. It's about the creative principle and the things that move us, the things that excite us. It's kind of got this like dynamic, fiery sort of theme to it. And I feel like this is a symbol of Mars in Aries. So there are resources and impact that is available to you within the wands, where that is more about being moved by something, being inspired, and having energy and enthusiasm to carry it out. Now, the King of Wands is about having impact and influence through, how do I say this? Kind of like through modeling. Like it's more like people are impacted by you, or you have influence in your life via your actions. It's not necessarily like the things that you say or the things that you do having an actual like A to B effect. It's more like you're modeling the things that you do speaks volumes, and that has some sort of influence, or and I'm saying this, I realize I'm saying this kind of as like you're having an impact or influence on others. I think that it can also be like you having an impact or influence on yourself. For example, I'm thinking about in this moment how we know through research that when people have like the way that our posture is, the way that we stand, has an impact on our confidence level and our emotional tone. Like they've done studies that, or researchers have done studies that when people stand in like the Superman pose where they have like their arms out and their hands on their hips and they're just like shoulders back and like looking straight forward, that has an effect, and a person, even for doing that for like maybe a minute or so, that they feel more confident. And so it is, also like the the thoughts that you have repeatedly over and over again, that has an impact on you, etc. You get what I'm saying, I hope. So this is about the things that you do have an impact. And I think the King of Wands is also like this sense of vitality and enthusiasm coming more online. In this card, this figure they're like riding on a broomstick, and it looks like they've just flown out the window and they're kind of like going on their little broomstick flying journey through the sky, and they're like really excited about it. Um, so this is the way that I'm reading this, is there's some challenging feelings, and maybe also I'm thinking about this too. Gosh, this is just hitting me. Is um we talked about Venus square Pluto this week. I feel like the Three of Swords is Venus square Pluto. That if there is a challenging feeling of any kind, that may be something that is being processed this week, and we want to create some space for that. We want to create honoring for that. In this card in particular, this person has what looks like almost like a veil. It could be her hair, but the tone of it is like a person grieving. And so we want to create space for that, because that is an important part. Like there needs to be an honoring for that part of life. And so so that is kind of like what is happening, maybe possibly. Even if it's not grief, there's space for the challenging emotions that we have. And then there is there's opportunities for you to do the things that can help you through noticing where you do have power, where you do have the ability to act and to do something, and especially something that maybe is like metaphysical in some way. If you're watching this video, I'm sure that there are things that you are into and maybe want to explore. Maybe you have practices that you haven't done for a while, and maybe returning to something or picking something up. And that like doing these practices and noticing how it is that you are being with yourself, that brings a sense of vitality online, and that brings an excitement. And I think with this card in particular, that brings like maybe a feeling of more freedom, a feeling of being able to exit a challenging situation, being able to take a new path or a new journey, or to go and play, or maybe just simply having more flexibility in the way that you are experiencing life. Thank you so much for being here with me. I am wishing you a wonderful week. Um, my name is Shawna McGrath. I am a psychotherapist and astrologer. It's my honor to be able to share the astrology with you in this way. I love it so much. Um, if you want to learn more about me and my work, I work in private practice where I offer depth psychotherapy with astrology. We can incorporate astrology into the therapy process as much or as little as you like. You can find out more about me and my work on my website, theastropsyche.com. Sending you lots of love and wishing you a wonderful week. I will see you soon. Bye.